Bureaucracy meets humanity. The Zovak Dominion was many things. Powerful, bureaucratic, and most of all, inefficiently meticulous. It had spent centuries subjugating fledgling civilizations across the galaxy with the same tried and true method: intimidation through paperwork. Their approach was simple. They would arrive, park a fleet of imposing warships in a planet's orbit, and broadcast a 120-page ultimatum riddled with so much legal jargon that most species surrendered just to avoid the headache of reading it. For centuries, it had worked flawlessly. That was until they arrived at Earth. Ambassador Zorth Calvor, a seasoned diplomat with 438 successful planetary conquests under his belt, stood aboard the Dominion's flagship, Indomitable Accord, reviewing the intelligence reports on this latest conquest. Primitive combustion engines, electromagnetic communication, still using wheels. Zorth chuckled. They still use wheels, Commander. Across the command deck, Fleet Admiral Relks sighed dramatically. Honestly, I'm insulted we're even bothering. They have no deep space colonies, no planetary shields, not even basic warp drives. I know, Zorth muttered, flipping through the human history reports. But protocol requires us to present the official ultimatum before forcibly civilizing them. And so, Operation Benevolent Overlordship was initiated. 500 warships, each larger than a human city, emerged from hyperspace in perfect geometric formation above Earth. Their arrival was carefully orchestrated, choreographed for maximum intimidation. Not a single ship was even a fraction of a degree out of place, because the Zovak Invasion Manual, Edition 472, Section 5.2, required absolute orbital symmetry for maximum psychological warfare. The official transmission was sent in every known human language. Attention, inhabitants of Earth. You are now under the watchful eye of the Zovak Dominion. We offer you an opportunity to embrace enlightened rule and progress beyond your primitive existence. Please review the attached terms and conditions of your peaceful assimilation, which are legally binding across all known galactic jurisdictions. Failure to comply will result in the appropriate level of corrective force, as outlined in subsection 32B of the Galactic Conquest Statutes. Thank you for your cooperation. The bridge of the Indomitable Accord fell silent as the Zovak officials waited for the inevitable panic. Would Earth's leaders scramble to negotiate? Would they plead for mercy? Perhaps they would declare feudal resistance, as many others had before. Instead, the human response arrived within minutes. Official RESPO in a city from Earth. That's pretty cute. There was a long pause on the bridge. Ambassador Zorth's eye twitched. Excuse me. Fleet Admiral Relks pulled up the transmission logs. That's it. That's the whole response. Zorth scrolled down, looking for a formal declaration, a request for surrender, a plea for negotiations. There was nothing. The entire galactic subjugation request had been absorbed into human internet culture in record time. It was a joke to them. The Ultimatum document, which had subjugated over 200 civilizations, had been sent to something called a spam folder. Worse, within minutes, the Zovak Dominion's message was trending on human social media under multiple mocking hashtags. Hashtag subscription service or invasion. Hashtag Zovak Ultimatum or like Zovakdom. Hashtag do we have it sig nupor can wignorite like the term Zov service. Across multiple human communication networks, memes spread like wildfire. One human had edited the Zovak warships into a pizza delivery ad. Galactic domination in 30 minutes or less, or your invasion is free. Another had photoshopped the Zovak fleet into an online shopping receipt, listing one planet, Human Edition, with a declined payment error message. Admiral Relks, his normally stoic demeanor faltering, turned to Zorth. There, not reacting properly. Zorth took a slow, deep breath. Perhaps their leaders are preparing a formal response. His hopes were shattered when a notification arrived. United Nations has marked your message as spam. For the first time in his long career, Ambassador Zorth felt panic. The Zovak had conquered hundreds of civilizations, some who fought bravely, others who crumbled at the mere sight of their fleet. Never had a species outright ignored them. This was not in the manual. Admiral Relks rubbed his temples. Should we escalate? Zorth straightened his posture. Initiate Phase 2. Relks's eyes widened. We're actually doing a planetary landing. We have no choice, Zorth muttered. We need to establish our authority before this situation spirals out of control. With a single command, the Zovak fleet prepared for dramatic descent. A colossal warship, the Hand of Dominion, broke from formation and descended toward North America, its massive thrusters igniting the atmosphere with a fiery trail. Its landing sequence had been carefully designed to maximize intimidation, descending slowly, menacingly, kicking up a titanic shockwave of displaced air and debris. It was a sight meant to inspire awe and terror. Instead, it became the subject of another meme. A live stream began, showing the Zovak warship landing on a Kansas farm, kicking up dirt, flattening crops, and sending local farm animals scattering in all directions. The camera zoomed in on a lone human farmer, standing in his cornfield. He was wearing overalls, sipping coffee, and looked thoroughly unimpressed. The Zovak ship loomed overhead, a metallic behemoth casting an imposing shadow over his land. The farmer took another sip of his coffee, squinted at the massive alien warship, and pulled out his phone. Within moments, a new hashtag was trending worldwide. #AliensParkedOnMyCorn again. Ambassador Zorth watched this unfold with a growing sense of dread. Admiral Relks glanced at the latest updates, his voice barely above a whisper. They're not taking this seriously. Zorth's claws tightened into fists. Then, he said, voice sharp, we escalate again. He turned toward his officers. Prepare the declaration of planetary control. We will force them to acknowledge our dominion. But deep inside, a cold feeling settled in his gut. Humanity wasn't afraid. They weren't even slightly concerned. They were laughing. And for the first time in Zovak history, an invading force wondered, had they just made a terrible mistake? Bureaucracy versus bullheadedness. Ambassador Zorth Calvor had spent 3 centuries perfecting the art of galactic subjugation. He had coerced, intimidated, and legally overwhelmed civilizations across the known universe. But never had he been mocked like this. Standing at the center of the indomitable Accords command bridge, he watched in growing horror as Earth's population continued treating the Zovak invasion like a joke. The live feed from the Kansas landing site was still trending across human networks. The farmer, still holding his coffee, had now been joined by his dog, which was casually sniffing around the massive alien warship. A handwritten sign had been nailed onto a wooden post nearby. No trespassing. Violators will be yeeted. Zorth had no idea what yeeted meant, but it did not sound like compliance. Admiral Relks, standing beside him, pinched the bridge of his nose. They're not even mobilizing defenses. Zorth snarled. This is clearly psychological warfare. They're pretending not to care to throw us off balance. Relks hesitated. Sir, are you sure? Zorth's mandibles clenched. I refuse to believe that an entire species is this, apathetic to an alien armada. He turned back toward the communications officer. Initiate Phase 3. The officer froze. Sir, are you sure? Phase 3 requires. Zorth slammed his hand onto the console. I know what it requires. We have no choice. If Earth does not respect our authority, then we must force them to take us seriously. A hush fell over the bridge. Admiral Relks sighed. Phase 3, then. He turned toward his officers. Prepare the Declaration of Planetary Control. Phase 3. The Declaration of Planetary Control. Across Earth, every single human communication device, phones, televisions, satellites, and even ancient AM radios, suddenly broadcasted the same message. A massive holographic projection of Ambassador Zorth appeared over major cities, His crystalline exoskeleton gleamed under artificial light as he stared down at humanity, his expression the perfect mix of menace and bureaucratic disappointment. "Inhabitants of Earth," his voice boomed, "you have failed to acknowledge the authority of the Zovak Dominion. As of this moment, your world is now officially under our control. All governing systems, resources, and military forces are to be surrendered immediately. Failure to comply will result in severe corrective action." The holo display cut to a massive warship descending over Washington, D.C., its weapons systems humming with energy. "You have 1 hour to acknowledge our rule," Zorth warned, "or we will demonstrate the full power of our fleet." For a moment, there was silence, and then the first response arrived. A human leader, an official-looking woman with a stoic expression and a government-issued coffee cup, calmly unmuted herself on the live broadcast. She took a sip, blinked at the camera, and said, "Okay, but what are you gonna do about taxes?" Zorth froze. "What?" The human official shrugged. "If you're taking control, do we still have to file taxes, or is this one of those all-inclusive takeovers?" Behind her, another government official leaned into view. "Do we still pay property taxes?" he asked. "Because I just refinanced my house and I'd really hate to get stuck with double payments." The Zovak Command Center was dead silent. What were they talking about? Zorth straightened. You don't understand the gravity of this situation. This is not a negotiation about finances. This is a planetary conquest." The human official scribbled something on a notepad. "Aha. So is healthcare included?" "What? Is it universal? Or do we have to enroll in a Zovak insurance plan?" Zorth's brain short-circuited. "We are a Dominion. We do not concern ourselves with—" "Okay," the official interrupted. "But if you're our new rulers, does that mean we get better infrastructure? Because our roads are awful." Another official poked her head into the frame. "Do you guys have student loan forgiveness?" Zorth's mandibles twitched violently. "We are not a financial institution." A long pause. Then the first meme appeared. A still image of Zorth mid-scream, captioned, "Aliens came to conquer, ended up on hold with customer service." Within seconds, the Zovak ultimatum had become an absolute mockery. Earth's response. Live internet feed. User 1. "So do we, sign up for a Zovak citizenship account, or is this one of those free trials that auto-renews?" User 2. "Do we get an overlord discount on gas prices?" User 3. "Aliens, please take my credit card." User 4. "Finally, someone to manage my student loans. Conquer me, Daddy." Zorth's eye twitched violently. Admiral Relks leaned in, voice barely a whisper. "Sir, I don't think they're taking this seriously." "Of course, they're not taking it seriously," Zorth roared, slamming his fist onto the console. A low alert tone beaked across the bridge. Zorth's eyes snapped toward the main view screen. The hand of Dominion warship, still stationed over Kansas, had failed its intimidation sequence. Why? Because local human farmers were now tailgating next to it, grilling burgers and drinking beer. Someone had set up a giant speaker, blasting "Welcome to the Jungle" at full volume. There was a cornhole tournament happening directly beneath the warship's landing gear. Someone had even started selling t-shirts that said, "I survived the Zovak invasion, and all I got was this stupid shirt." Ambassador Zorth felt his soul leaving his body. "Commander," Relks murmured, "I believe we have gravely miscalculated our approach." Zorth inhaled sharply through his mandibles, his entire exoskeleton trembling with rage. "They will bow to the Zovak Dominion," he hissed, "even if I have to drag them into submission by force." A deep pause settled in the room. Then, another notification flashed across the bridge's main screen. A new transmission. From Earth's leaders. Zorth straightened. Finally, a real response. He accepted the transmission, standing tall as the screen came to life, and immediately regretted it, because the human transmission was just a gif of a cat wearing sunglasses. Zorth screamed in frustration. The bureaucratic breakdown. Ambassador Zorth Calvor had faced many challenges throughout his long and illustrious career. He had outwitted the hyper-intelligent Jithari mind cluster. He had intimidated the war-hardened Kravok warlords into submission. He had bested the bureaucracy of the Intergalactic High Council itself, a feat previously thought impossible. But nothing in his 438 conquests had prepared him for Earth. His mandibles twitched violently as he stared at the insult flashing across the indomitable Accord's command screen. A gif of a cat wearing sunglasses. The official response from Earth's leaders. This was an act of war. Zorth's claws curled into fists. Admiral Relx, he said through gritted mandibles. Relx, who had long since abandoned all hope of this invasion making any sense, sighed deeply. Yes, sir. Do humans actually have a central government? Relx gestured toward the holo display, which still showed the ongoing human negotiations. Multiple Earth officials had joined the transmission, but rather than discussing the terms of surrender, they had pivoted into an interdepartmental argument. One human, some sort of transportation secretary, was currently ranting about the sorry state of Earth's public transit system. Another, apparently a state governor, was furiously debating with a federal representative about jurisdictional loopholes regarding alien occupation laws. Zorth blinked. Are they arguing with each other? Relx rubbed his temples. They appear to be debating who has the authority to negotiate planetary surrender. Zorth exhaled sharply. This is madness. One of the human officials, the same woman who had asked about taxes, turned back to the transmission. So, like she said, taking a sip from her world's okayest diplomat coffee mug, if we were to hypothetically surrender, which department is handling the paperwork? Another official snorted. Oh, definitely not the DMV. If the aliens have to register every human as a citizen, that's gonna take centuries. Zorth's left eye twitched. We are not going through your primitive bureaucratic processes. A third human perked up. Oh, so you're saying you'll handle it? That's great news. We'll just forward you our IRS backlog, then. Zorth's breathing became erratic. What is an IRS backlog? The human official grinned. Oh, just about 600 million unprocessed tax returns. But since you're in charge now, I guess it's your problem. The holoscreen lit up with a massive data transfer request. Zovak Central Data Hub. Incoming request. Tigrayan SFER of 600 million plus. Human tax documents. HFY HCCEPT. DEC lining. Zorth's entire body locked up in primal horror. Admiral Relx stared at the notification. Sir, he said slowly, if we accept this transfer, the entire Dominion's central server will crash. A low whimper escaped from Zorth's throat. DEC line. He screamed, slamming the console. The transmission flashed red. Error. Request rejected. Human response. Aw, man. Guess we'll have to keep it then. No alien tax relief for us. A loud cheering sound erupted from the human communication line. Someone started chanting no new overlord taxes. Zorth's vision darkened. This was not a species. This was a bureaucratic nightmare wearing human skin. Admiral Relx cleared his throat. Sir, at this point, it might be more practical to destroy the planet. Zorth inhaled sharply, trying to calm his fraying nerves. No, he said, straightening his uniform. We do not need to destroy them. We simply need to show force. Relx raised a skeptical brow. Sir, I feel obligated to remind you that they have yet to acknowledge us as a legitimate threat. Zorth's mandibles clicked in frustration. Then we escalate again. Phase 4. The demonstration of power. Moments later, the Zovak flagship's primary weapons charged up, The indomitable Accord rotated into position over North America, targeting a high-value infrastructure facility, one guaranteed to shake humanity to its core. A single high-energy plasma round fired from the ship's cannons, streaking toward the planet like a meteor. It impacted the target, erupting in an explosion visible from orbit. On the bridge, Zorth allowed himself a small, victorious smirk. "Let's see them laugh at." "Sir," Relx interrupted, his face pale. "We have a situation." Zorth turned toward the tactical screen. His mandibles dropped in horror. The human response was not one of panic. It was outrage, but not because of the destruction. The targeted structure had been labeled on Earth's communications as a Waffle House, a 24-hour diner, apparently a sacred human institution. And now, every single human news network was broadcasting the same headline: "Aliens attack Waffle House. Earth prepares for war." Zorth frowned. Why do they care so much about this structure? Relx swallowed nervously. "Sir, reports indicate that Waffle House locations never close. Ever." Zorth froze. "What?" Relx turned the holo display toward him. It was a Wikipedia entry. Zorth read aloud, his voice faltering. "If a Waffle House closes, it is a sign of the end times." A new Earth transmission appeared. The same farmer from Kansas, now wearing a cowboy hat and mirrored sunglasses, stared directly into the camera. His voice was calm. Too calm. "Y'all messed up." The screen cut to black. An eerie silence settled over the bridge. Then, an incoming warning signal blared across the command center. Relx looked up, his face losing color. "Sir," he whispered, "they're launching a counteroffensive." Zorth's eyes widened. "A military fleet." Relx gulped. "No, sir. Florida man." Zorth's stomach dropped. "Explain." Relx turned the display toward him. It was a live stream of a barefoot, shirtless man wielding a flamethrower, riding an airboat across a flooded highway. Behind him, a horde of similarly chaotic individuals followed suit, carrying everything from homemade rocket launchers to alligators on leashes. The text overlay on the screen read, "Florida declares war. Alien sovereignty revoked." Zorth felt his soul leave his body. "Sir," Relx whispered, "what do we do?" Zorth's claws dug into the command console. His breathing was ragged. And then, he gave the only order that made sense. "Get us the hell out of here."